Marjane Satrapi is an Iranian-born French graphic novelist, illustrator, film director, and children's book author. Her 2007 film Persepolis tells the story of her childhood during the Iranian Revolution. Through her story, it humanizes the Iranian people by not only separating them from the actions of their government, but by showing simple human experiences that we can all relate to and share. Pointedly and eloquently, she writes, "The world is not divided between East and West. You are American, I am Iranian. We don't know each other, but we can talk and we understand each other perfectly. The difference between you and your government is much bigger than the difference between you and me. And the difference between me and my government is much bigger than the difference between me and you. And our governments are very much the same." This divide between East and West, this sense of otherness pummeled into us by a propaganda machine media and hawkish governments, this could apply to any number of nations, including ours, and Israel. Yep. I'm going to dive into this horrifically controversial issue, and while I know I will more than likely incur the wrath of some people, it is not my intention to incur wrath. War and religion do enough of that on their own. Instead, I seek to follow that red thread of similarities through the people, outside of the governments that brutalize and draw peace signs with bullet holes. Last Tuesday, Netanyahu came to the U.S. to speak before Congress, at a time when the U.S. is uncharacteristically using some diplomacy in the Middle East. But Netanyahu wants war. He's been ringing the alarm bells on Iran since the mid-90s, when he promised U.S. officials that Iran was 3 to 5 years away from developing nuclear weapons. Well, that didn't happen. It also didn't happen in 2012, when he again warned us of Iran's nuclear intentions with the help of what looked like a 10-year-old's D-grade science project. Or how about in 2002, when he claimed that ousting Saddam would make the Middle East safer and more stable? Of course, as we know, it had the exact opposite effect, and this is the point. More of that common sense shit that I mentioned at the beginning. War begets war. Hate begets hate. And when a corrupt, bloodthirsty leader claims to speak for not just an entire nation, but an entire people, he threatens the safety of those people by tying their cultural identity to his stupid fucking decisions. I grew up Jewish. And today, even as an atheist, I still have fond memories and great respect for many aspects of the Jewish culture and traditions. And I might be one of the few people that actually thinks gefilte fish is just fucking delicious. I'm proud of my Jewish heritage. The government of Israel is not my culture, just like the government of the US is not my culture, nor the government of Sweden. In fact, many aspects of these and other cultures were formed and evolved via dissension and criticism of government. So, as someone who is proud of their heritage and culture, I stand with Code Pink and their actions last week when they stood up to Netanyahu and the extreme right lobbying group AIPAC. I stand with Jewish Voice for Peace and Jews for Peace in general. I stand with the Israeli and Palestinian women who gathered at an Israeli checkpoint to protest the occupation only to be tear-gassed by Israeli security forces. I stand with the celebrities, artists, and activists behind the Gaza Names Project. I stand with the Israeli metal band Orphanland, who went on a European tour sharing a stage and a tour bus with the Palestinian band Kalas. And despite the official political rift and presence of devil's music, no one died. Apparently, they didn't even argue much, which is more than I can say for my band on tour. And Orphanland's lead singer admits to growing up hating the Palestinians. After a terror attack in his city as a child, he resigned himself to hating all Arabs, even spray painting on a wall at one time, "Death to Arabs." And now he sits next to this Palestinian band admitting, Israelis and Arabs are brothers. He gives simple suggestions on how to begin working on this conflict, again, by focusing on those similarities. Instead of starting to feed the kids with toy guns when they're 3 years old, we will start to just teach them about the value of life. I would take Israeli kids to visit Arab villages. I would take Arab kids to visit Israelis. They would play football together. They would learn about similarities in their languages. They would learn about history. They would learn how similar they are. Yes, you are similar. We are so similar. The difference between us is not in us, it is in our governments. And both governments have betrayed their people, have betrayed the hope for peace. Our governments are very much the same. The rise of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia reflects a misguided anger towards the sociopaths in power. It is not Muslims that you hate. It is not Jews that you hate. You hate, and rightfully so, the evil actions carried out in your name by the US, by Hamas, by Israel, by ISIS. These entities are not we the people. We must recognize this important difference. The terrorist actions of Israel are inexcusable, and the continued occupation of Palestine is a human rights violation for both Israelis and Palestinians. And don't take that from me. Take it from Amnesty International. The occupation of Palestine must end. Peace is not on the other side of war, it's on the other side of that fucking wall. The longer we separate ourselves by seeing people as governments, the longer we see only sides, not human lives, the longer we clutter our view with the haze of hateful rhetoric and blood-soaked diatribes, the longer we will suffer in this mire of war, hate, greed, phobia, and pain. So Netanyahu, you win the Low-Life Scum Award of the Week.
You low-life scum.
For your continued efforts to pull your country and mine into perpetual war, shitting on diplomacy and fueling extremist behavior both in this country and your own region. For having the fucking nerve to say that you speak for an entire culture as you put your own people and others into the crosshairs of a fully loaded gun. You do not speak for all Jews. You do not speak for me.
You low-life scum.
Wrapping up with this heavy controversial issue, I recommend that you check out heavy metal bands Orphanland and Khalas and stay tuned for more from both bands and their plans for the future. Orphanland lead singer Kobi Farhi says that one day their kids will start a band together. More music, more peace. And outside the realm of music, there's no shortage of creative expression surrounding this conflict, calling for peace and highlighting the plight of the people, including the recent underground, literally underground, mission by street artist Banksy, bringing art and the world's eye into Gaza. Take a look.
كويس 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 توحي للعالم كله انه طلع كيف لسه هذه كيف لها صغار عندنا الاطفال اذا بدك لها قبه تلعب فيها اذا البسه لقيتها لها لعبه تلعب فيها